Welcome everyone to the Squid and Ultimate Leaf Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs fan. Joining me as always, my winger Ricky Squid Vibe. Squid, a few developments in Leafland since we last spoke. Let's start with some of the players that'll be missing the next little while. How about straight right off for Jason Spez's 6-game suspension?
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty hefty suspension for a guy who's never been suspended before in roughly 1,200 and some games in the National League. But it was the intent and I guess ultimately the need of the head that kind of got him those 6 games because there's no question that the intent was there when he came on the ice.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
yeah, and I'm sure he'd like to maybe have another shot at him in a different way. But again, it goes to show you what he brings to that room. I mean, that aside, yeah, it was a cheap shot, and he went after him, and he deserves to be suspended for at least a game or two. I think 6 is maybe a little harsh, but it's got to instill a little bit of confidence in the bench that the boys are there pulling together.
Yeah, I think it helped. I mean, missing them for 6 games doesn't help, but
That doesn't help.
the fact that he did what he did, I think, is really that goes a long way in the room, and the guys don't forget that type of thing. And trust me, they will be thinking about that when he comes back, and they'll be thankful to have him back.
Now, one of the central figures in that incident, Rasmus Sundin, wasn't so lucky. But on the good news is he's not going to be out as long as was first feared. But nevertheless, it's going to be a few weeks. Travis
Yeah.
Dermott, he's got shoulder issues, so he's out as well. But it opens the door for somebody else. And last night, Christian Rubens, he played it very well last night. I thought he kept it pretty straightforward for him. And Alex Bega is going to get a shot also at some point. What did you think of his game last night,
Yeah.
Rubens?
I thought he played pretty good. I thought he kept everything simple. He didn't try to do things that he probably wasn't capable of doing. He just, he moved the puck when he needed to. He didn't do anything fancy. He pinned guys in his own zone and stopped, from rotating and that sort of thing. I thought he was excellent. I mean, he didn't get a ton of ice time, but he got a considerable amount. But he kept it simple. That's what I loved about it was he didn't try to do anything fancy and have a bad giveaway or anything like that. He just kept everything simple.
And it's something this team is sorely missing in the back end. It's a big body.
Oh yeah, and he's not a little guy, that's for sure.
No, no, no. Now the big injury is obviously Mitch Marner, the
Yeah.
shoulder situation. Putting him on the shelf for a couple of weeks at least, for a couple of weeks, probably 3 or 4 weeks, paving the way last night for somebody else. Now the former Notre Dame prospect Alex Steve, who ironically after a solid rookie camp hurt his shoulder, separated it actually, and he was just starting to find his footing. He's finding his footing again. I've been very impressed with the few times I've watched him with the Marlies, and last night he was full of energy and certainly didn't look out of place.
No, he didn't look out of place. I think he got out of position a few times,
Yeah, he
maybe
did.
because he was kind of, he a young guy coming in. He wants to make an impression, so
Yeah.
I thought he went out of his way a few times and got out of position. But I think he'll settle down now that he's got that game under his belt. And trust me, I think he'll get an opportunity to play with Matthews and Bunting. I think at some point, because you can't keep a skilled guy like that on the fourth line play 8 9 minutes a game or something like that. You got to give him more of a chance to prove that he can do what he did in college.
Yeah, and I mean, he definitely has the hands, and you can see the ability. And he wasn't afraid to make plays with the puck when he had last night, which was impressed me. But it impressed me also with him with the Marlies. And I know the organization is very high on him. So he, I think, to your point, will get a shot at some point. One of the guys who benefited from it last night, Kyle Clifford, he played a pretty good game last night also as well. He had a couple of chances, and he could have buried a few with any puck luck.
Yeah, he could have. I mean, one thing with Clifford is that he can skate. I
Yeah.
mean, he can fly out there, and when he gets going, if he gets a good pass on the tape, I mean, he can get around a defenseman, and like he did last night, took it to the net, almost got one there, and then followed through. He ended up running into the goalie, but it wasn't malicious or anything. He got pushed in, but I mean, he's the type of guy that can skate, and he can take that puck to the net like that and cause some things to happen around the net.
Well, these are the times, as we've been talking about, that make or break teams, never mind missing starters, but the strength of the depth in the organization. One guy who could benefit, or who could you say could be on the hot seat right now, is Timothy Liljegren, just to pull his name out, because his ice time should go up, and here's as good a chance as he's ever going to get. And actually, you know what? He seems to be making strides. He's improving, and I wasn't that high in him to be honest with you, when I saw him last year and the last couple of years. But he seems to be progressing.
Yeah, he does. He seems to be kind of quieting his game down a little bit. He's just, he's doing what the other kid did. He's just kind of trying to keep things simple. And, you know, as they say, less is better sometimes. And, you know, if you try to do too much, you know, you're going to make a mistake and it's going to end up in your net. And then, you know, you look bad. But if you keep things simple, then, you know, you don't have to worry about those things, because you're not going to cough it up. You're not going to give up a good scoring chance.
Now, another guy, Nick Ritchie, who's struggled all year, gets another lifeline. I mean, I know how many lifelines this guy can have with what's happening, and unfortunately at the expense of somebody being hurt. But he made the most of it last night, scored a nice goal. It was nice to see. And it's funny, after that, he took, I think, probably counted 2 or 3 shots at the net that he wouldn't have taken previous to last night. A little confidence came in. So maybe with not a monkey off his back, a piano in his case has been lifted with that one goal. So hopefully he can settle in. And as we've said many times, Squid, this guy just didn't forget how to play hockey from last May to September.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like him on the line he's on now with Kasha and Kemp. I think they kind of play well together, and he played with Kasha in Anaheim for a bit. So I think they have a little bit of chemistry, those 3 guys together, and they play similar games. They're not high scoring guys or anything like that. They play hard, they play physical, and they kill penalties and that sort of thing. So I think those 2 guys with him, I think that really helps him a lot. He feels a lot more comfortable in that role, I think, than playing up there with Matthews and Marner.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think you've hit the nail right on the head. He's where he belongs. And I mean, Cash has got lots of skill. If you watch him very closely, he does handle the puck. And he's not scared to go to the net to make plays. And even when he's killing penalties, he's looking for an opportunity to go on the offense. So you got to like that about him. If we can just keep him healthy, he could be a real good find this year. And of course, Kemp is just real nice and steady down the middle.
Well, those 3 guys are guys that could be real important players down the stretch, and then come playoff time, because they play that style of game. They play that playoff type style of game. Ritchie and Kasha and Kemp, and you know, they could be really valuable in the playoffs.
Now let's shake it up a little bit here. Squid, in your time, we're going to go back here to the Marner Muzzin hit. Did you ever, as a player, let me say this right off the bat. I cannot believe in this day and age, or even before in your time, with guys whipping. Look at the old stiffs I play with, all us old guys. We're running into each other all the time. Our games are in reverse. Imagine playing at the tempo you guys played at, or what they play at this time. How more players don't run into each other. There's not more collisions. I have no idea. But do any come to mind with you with players running into the guys missing time? Practice.
I mean, I don't recall which ones, but I know that there was a lot of times, and it wasn't accidental for the most part in our practices. When things weren't going well, guys would go in and run a guy a little bit, give him a little bit more of a hit than they normally would in practice. I mean, there was probably a fight in our practices every second or third practice. 2 guys would square off. It was common. It was just one of those things that happened, and a lot of that obviously had to do with how our team was going. And when things weren't going well, you know, everybody's uptight and, you know, pissed off a little bit, and you get out in practice and you take it out on someone. And oh boy, I saw that all the time. I never saw anybody get hurt and miss any amount of time from a hit in practice, but there was a lot of them thrown. I can tell you that.
Well, how would the coaches respond to that when they saw that stuff going? Now, I'm sure someone like a bro would let it go, and he'd almost instigate to keep it going. But would there be times where they would just say, "All right, guys, enough"? Would it look like it would maybe get a little out of hand? They would just try and channel the energy, or would they just call practice and say enough?
For the most part, the guys I had would just kind of let it go. They wouldn't say anything about it. They wouldn't be too upset about it. They probably liked it because they're going, okay, that's good. They're getting mad because they're not playing well. They're not winning, and they're getting mad. And I like that. And most of the coaches I had, that's exactly how they took it. And sometimes they blow the whistle and say, okay, guys, enough's enough. Like, we can't go too far here. We don't want a line brawl out here and in practice. But for the most part, they let it go and they kind of liked it.
Now, how would the mood be in the dressing room after one of these ruckuses would break out, a big fight or a big fight or some sort of altercation like that? Would the room be a little quiet, or would it be a little tension, or how would it be?
No, it would. You know what? It'd be kind of fun. It would be funny because guys would be making remarks in
Okay,
the
that's what I'm
room,
looking for.
and then guys would start laughing, and even the guys that were involved in it would start laughing about it, and because it was over. Once you left the ice, it was all over, and nothing really boiled over after that. But there was a lot of funny things said in the room afterwards. Guys would be giving it to the guys that were involved and that sort of thing. So sometimes it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so it'd be a little bit of a motivational tool for you guys in a roundabout way, I guess you could say, and bond the
Yeah,
team a little bit. But would
yeah,
teammates I'm sure some of those feuds would carry over. Not everything was always lovey-dovey after the fact. Even though everybody said you leave it at the rink, but I'm sure there was some little bit of animosity that would carry forward with some players sometimes. That's only human nature.
yeah. I mean, I can't recall that ever happening when I was playing. Anyway, I mean, usually, yeah. I mean, they were mad at each other on the ice, and maybe when they first come in the room, there was a little bit of animosity between the individuals, but for the most part, when it was over, it was over, and they realized that hey, we're on the same team, we got to get along, and we can't let this linger and fester into the locker room and the dressing room and make things even worse than what they are. So for the most part, the guys were pretty good at letting it go.
Or if he had a couple goals in the game and you guys were up a few, put skates in it, or put pucks in his skates so he couldn't get the third one, or get a couple of assists and make him reach down for pucks. So that'd be the payback and set him up for a hit or something. Now,
Uh,
thoughts on the last four games? That's the last time we spoke. They played for 2 wins, a loss, and then a shootout loss. Overall thoughts?
uh, Overall, pretty darn good, Mike. I mean, they're down 3-0 to Minnesota, and they come back to
Yep.
tie it up and lose in a shootout, which I thought was great that they were able to come back. Winnipeg was a little bit of a one that they didn't play that well as a team, and in Matthews' words, it became a gong show when no one was playing hockey, as it was his quote after the game, when
Yeah,
he
that's yeah.
was interviewed after the game. But I think it's great. I mean, they're playing well, and again, Campbell is playing extremely well. He made like 2 or 3 unbelievable saves last night that
Oh God.
could have changed the game in the middle of it. Matthews is getting hot, really hot right now, and that was only a matter of time before that would happen. And Bunting, I thought he's really come along. He's playing better and better every game, and the whole team is. I mean, Mike, they're playing very good hockey right now. Uh, they're not playing lackadaisical. They're getting out there and they're getting the job done. And I still like the way they're winning those close games. They're not losing those 1-goal games. They're winning those 1-goal games for the most part. And I think that's very, very valuable going forward.
So thoughts on Joseph Woll? 3 good starts, a little rough start in Winnipeg, although he made some good saves and he hung in there tough. Get him back in sooner or later.
Well, I mean, I think you gotta give him one more opportunity. I would think. Certainly, it wouldn't be the next game against Tampa Bay. That's for sure.
Oh,
I wouldn't throw him into that fire. But
oh,
um, it depends. I mean, I don't know when the other guy's going to be back. Uh, how long it's going to be before he's able to play. But I think if it's going to be a little while, then Wall definitely. I think you should give him one more opportunity and see what he can do. again, we talked about this before. You've got to find out if he can play at this
Yep.
level or if he's ready to play at this level or not. And if not, you got to send him back to the minors and let him play and let him get some games in.
Well, Mrazek looks like he had to start with them. He lost 5-1 on the weekend playing for Marlies, but so he got a game under his belt, so he's ready to go soon. But my suggestion would be let this kid play, and to your point, let him find his way, because let him leave at least on a positive note, hopefully that he wins the game, and go back. If he's got to go back to Marlies, which you probably will, and get some more games under his belt, at least you got somebody you can rely on. Because Mrazek's health, it's always been a question mark with this guy. Hopefully he gets through the rest of the year, but you can't afford to give up points at any time this year. So you have to have every angle of this game covered. So let's get him on a positive note, and I'm referring to Wall.
Yeah, I agree. I think you give him one more. You hope that the team plays well in front of them and they don't give up the quality opportunities that they gave up in Winnipeg. You couldn't really blame him on some of those goals.
No.
I mean, there were one-timers that were passes across, one-timers and those types of goals. But he did make some saves that night, and give him one more chance. We got to see if this kid can play at this level or not, or if he's ready, or he needs a little bit more time in the American Hockey League.
Well, we'll wait and see. And tomorrow should be, it's right back into the fire tomorrow night with Tampa, and we'll see how it goes. So it's going to be an interesting test tomorrow night once again for these guys. So based on all that, Squid, your favorite time of the show, quote of the week. And this is for the boys in blue and white, feeling a little blue in sick bay right now. So here's the thought to ponder for them and for you. Nobody can go back and start a new beginning, but anyone can start today and make a new ending.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting. And that's good. I mean, and one of the guys we're talking about that scored his first goal. There's a situation where you can't go back and you can't start over and erase those 24 or 25 games or whatever, however many games. But you can go forward now and finish the season real strong and end in the playoffs and do some damage in the playoffs. So you're absolutely right. I like that one. I think that's, anybody who's struggling and has been struggling so far this year, there's always time for you to erase that and turn things around and have a different ending.
But this goes for everybody. For sure. Even Jason Spezza is sitting there for 6 games. Forget about what happened. Move forward.
Yep.
Mitch Marner, forget about what happened.
Well,
hit that bike or whatever you have to do to come back stronger and better than you were.
And you know what the thing is? There's always an opportunity, and you got to take advantage of that opportunity. And you got to kind of erase the bad things that happened in the past out of your mind and move on and go forward. And if you can't do that, then can you even play in the National Hockey League on a regular basis? I'm not sure. Ritchie, he's got to look at the positives from last night now. Forget about those 20-some games that he didn't score any goals and move on and say, okay, well, now I can change things around and I can finish the year real strong and make things different at the end. So that quote is a good one. I like that.
Well, hopefully the boys, as they're listening, probably all right now having dinner listening, they'll be talking about it at practice tomorrow. So hopefully this will rub off on all these guys and we move forward. So until next week, same time, same place. Don't forget to tune into this week's Squid and Ultimate Leaf Fan podcast, featuring Hall of Fame ECHL goalie and current Nashville Predators scout Nick Vitucci. Drops Friday at 6 p.m. Thanks again for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you very soon.